Hey, good morning, everybody. Renee here for today's daily video devo, and right now I'm about to read one of the most confusing passages about Jesus Christ. Right after the triumphal entry, he leaves Jerusalem. The next day he's coming back in, and in Mark chapter 11 it says he sees a fig tree in the distance. It is in full leaf. And so it says in verse 13, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves. And then he says to the fig tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And later on, the disciples pass that same tree and discover it is withered. Jesus curses a fig tree and prevents it from ever bearing fruit again. Now, why in the world would he do that? Was he upset because he didn't get a snack? What was the point of this whole episode? Well, Jesus is using the fig tree as an example of his criticism of the temple system. The gigantic temple is looming in front of them as they pass this fig tree. And you could say the temple is in full leaf. It looks great, just like that fig tree looked great. One problem: no fruit. The temple, for all of its marble and gold and expensive fabrics, was not producing people who were godly. It wasn't producing people who really loved God and loved others. In fact, for the past couple of hundred years before Jesus, it had just been producing assassinations and political intrigue and egocentric leadership. And Jesus says the temple's in full leaf, but it's not producing fruit. And he says of this fig tree, here's an example of what God is going to do to the temple. He tells his disciples later on in the Gospel of Mark that the entire temple is going to be torn down. He doesn't seem to care about the temple system because he came to replace the temple system with something that is actually going to produce fruit in people's lives. Does that make sense? So the fig tree is an object lesson of what his criticisms are about the temple. Now, before you say, yeah, that temple 2,000 years ago, that was so bad, be careful, because of course the same criticism applies to our church and to our lives. Are we in full leaf, full of activities, full of plans, full of our own agenda? We look very busy, we're very leafy, but are we actually producing fruit? What fruit? Well, the fruit of the Spirit. In Galatians chapter 5, the Apostle Paul says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. For all your life's leafiness, are you producing that kind of fruit? If I'm honest, a lot of times I am running pretty low on the joy meter and the gentle meter and the peace meter and the love meter, if you were to measure the fruit of the Spirit in my life. But I'm very, very leafy. I've got lots of activities. So how can I become more fruitful? Well, I'll just close with this real quick. I actually just went onto a website of the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, and they are giving gardeners some advice on how to make their vines more fruitful. And listen to this. They say, remove any dead, disease, or unproductive branches. Remove overly tangled vines. Remove errant vines. Direct its growth and limit its growth. And I think that same advice applies to you and me. If you want to be more productive, more fruitful, well, remove any unproductive things in your life, in your schedule. Remove any overly tangled vines, things that have gotten too complicated. Remove errant vines, ways that you're thinking that are not true. Direct its growth. Be more proactive in directing your growth, in really wanting to produce the fruit of the Spirit in your life, and then limit its growth. Don't pack your schedule full of so many vines that you become leafy but unfruitful. Well, there's just some food for thought, but let's not be leafy trees. Let's be fruitful trees as we go through our day-to-day. God bless.